As you guys know, the technical struggles continue for me. So, Greg, who are you? Where did you come from? Where are you at now? Where do you see yourself going?
So we're sitting exactly. We're sitting in my little condo in Carmel Valley, Delmar, California, and that's where I was born and raised. I mean, I haven't gone too far from the nest, so to speak, I guess.
Okay.
This is my hood.
This is where you're from?
West Coast. That's right.
Every time I tell people I'm from Encinitas, they never believe me.
I know.
I don't know why. I can't sell that.
It's right where we live. It's just that coolest little thing.
I can't sell that.
Once you're in paradise, there's nowhere to go.
That's it. So, how long have you been an entrepreneur?
Pretty much my whole life. It's like one of those type of things. Serial entrepreneur. As a kid, started mowing lawns, make a couple bucks, all the way down to today, where generating my own businesses, just like you. I started and sold and find my way into personal development. Here we are.
So where did that entrepreneurial DNA, that entrepreneurial spirit come from? How was your upbringing? How was your childhood?
It's like everyone's got something to complain about. It's so funny. My kid's only 4 years old. Only known ocean view places with nannies, and he'll grow up bitching about something, I'm sure. It's like you're around too much rather than whatever. There's never a perfect life. It's just the illusion which we give it. So, I don't like to talk about the past part as much as where we're going to go. So for myself, the future is, I'm trying to be the parent that I never had as a kid. I never had a positive role model as a male in my life. Okay. So I thought it'd be really cool to start doing that. And that's why I wrote my first book, The Millionaire Mentor. It's not because I mentor millionaires, I just mentor inner city kids who happen to be successful. So I'd drive up in a new car, they'd say, here comes the Millionaire Mentor. It became a badge of honor. So my whole life is, giving back to the thing that I wish I had as a child.
So that became your why.
That's it.
Really, in essence, that became your why. It looks like we have some people jumping on, so good. Marion, can you see the feed?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. So that became your why. That became your drive. And I always say, when your why becomes big enough, it's going to pull you through. And when your why becomes bigger than you, which it is, you become unstoppable.
And I think that's just part of the life too. I don't think that's my every day I wake up and say, I'm going to go do this for, whatever. I don't have that drive. Mine is, I like to create. Okay. So my thing is creation. It's like I wake up every day and say, what can I generate out of thin air? Okay. To me, it's a game. It's a toy. One guy, Grant Cardone out there, he's got a great little quote, whether you like the guy or not, but he wakes up every day and says, who's got my money? And I always thought that, what an interesting viewpoint, right? So it's like somebody out there has got some deal that's waiting for him. Like, how do you create a value in exchange for that prosperity? It's not like, how do I steal your money, but how can I create value so that you'll go ahead and want something that I have to offer and make a win-win situation?
Yeah, and I'm actually a fan of Grant Cardone, and I just did a post today and quoted a little bit, because I think the other thing that I love what you said, and the other thing that he says, I think is genius, right? Especially when we're talking about social media, we're talking about creating your own brand. So many people are afraid. If you can't promote yourself, then why do you expect anybody else to promote you? And here's what he says, ACA, it's genius. Attention, criticism, admiration, every single time. And when you follow that rule, you become bulletproof. You become bulletproof. And the more you get out there, the thicker your skin better be.
Yep.
If not, you ain't going to make it. Right. And that's just the real.
Well, one of my mentors, he has this great quote. He wrote a book. His name's Dave Corbin. You guys should look him up, or a friend of mine on Facebook. And he wrote a book called Illuminate. And basically, back in the day, there was those dancing bears, and it said, there's a song. You got to accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative. He says, no. He goes, accentuate the positive and illuminate the negative. Put a spotlight on it. It says, look, he goes, once you can deal with something head on, you get rid of it right away. He goes, if you had a first date and you knock on the door, she answers it, and you got a big old pimple, you say, hey, before we go out, let's get this out of the way, I got Kilimanjaro. You laugh, I don't have to worry about hiding.
The elephant in the room.
Exactly. Most people are afraid to deal with their stuff head on.
Yes.
And I realized when you can illuminate and go towards it, that's where you come out on top. One of the great interviews I was doing in one of my books, we're talking about something called the duck dive. Now, I live here on the coast of San Diego. If you don't know where Del Mar is, it's a little beach town community. And you can tell the new surfer from a brand new one instantly by one thing. It's called the duck dive. See, when a big giant wave comes, it gets scary. So a new surfer will hold on to their board, and that wave comes by and pushes them down and crushes them to the bottom. Well, a senior, experienced surfer does a duck dive. You see, he takes the bill of that board and goes right into the face, the belly of that wave, and just pops back out on the other side. Hardly even gets wet. It's called a duck dive. And I realized that's what successful people do. You're scared, I'm scared, we're all scared, but successful people, head toward it. We don't run from it.
So interesting you say that, because, you know, I speak on...
What do you call it, brilliant?
Absolutely, genius.
Genius.
Let's go with genius.
Yeah, I like that word.
What do you think?
Okay, I like it.
So I'm glad you went there, because, you know, I speak on fear barriers, and so many people are so afraid of their story. And that relates to what you were talking about when you go to that first date, you have that pimple on your face. It all comes back to that story. And I believe everything maps to one thing, your self-image.
Right.
I believe that your self-image...
Well, then if you're strong within your own psyche, I mean, if you're strong enough to be who you are as a person, that's where the power and...
But that's the minority. That's the problem. That's the problem.
Back to Illuminate, it's interesting. A couple of years ago, one of my books came out, and everyone loved it, and it had like hundreds of people telling how great it was, but one guy wrote a review, said, "It sucks." I went, holy crap, I go, what am I going to do? So everyone's going to see this, family, friends, I'm embarrassed. So I called my mentor and said, no, illuminate it. So I sent an email to 35,000 people and said, hey everyone seems to like my book. One guy says, it sucks, here's the link. Well, by me putting it out, everyone went there. Not only did it become a bestseller again that day because I put the illumination on it, but the other fans started dogging that one person out. I didn't have to do it because they were sticking up on my behalf. And I realized rather than running from your fears, you head on to them.
Yeah, it's absolutely, it's 100%. You become bulletproof.
That's right.
You become bulletproof, and I believe that. And let me know what you think about this. I'd like to hear your take on this. Is there's a lot of fears out there, right? All kinds of fears, right? The fear of the unknown, the darkness, what if, failure, success. But I believe a lot of them, most of them, all map to two fears: the fear of change and the fear of what other people think. And I believe when you can conquer those fears, there's really, it becomes limitless in life. And I'm making a real broad
but you're spot
statement
on
here, but I believe those two fears stop so many people.
Right, and you're a big fan of Think and Grow Rich, which I know.
Oh,
and people don't.
That's the Bible.
And people don't know this, but the last chapter is called The Six Ghosts of Fear. The biggest chapter of Think and Grow Rich was based on fear. And they talked about the fear of loss of love and the fear of old age and fear of death. And I don't know if those were as relevant today as it was, 100 years ago. But I do say that the fear of criticism or the fear of what other people think is the single greatest fear. And the funny thing is, no one's thinking about you. Everyone's got their own shit. They're all dealing with their own life issues. So while we're worried about what other people think, we can put that aside. But what's interesting is you can walk down the streets of, Branson, Missouri, and fall down and trip over a curb. And the first thing you're going to do is look up to see who saw you. Now, you don't even know anyone in Missouri, but you're still going to do that because we care so much about what other people think. There's a coffee mug in Disneyland that says, what would you do if you would not fail? That's a bunch of crap. Throw it away. Here's a big question. What would you do if you truly didn't mind what other people thought? Would you ask that person out for a date? Would you start that own business? And that's the difference that separates the people that succeed from those who just wish.
And I'm 100% on board with that. And let's go a little deeper, right? Is one of the reasons I believe people are so consumed and get so stopped by other people's opinions is what they're going to think about them, right? And are they stupid? Are they this? Are they that? And if you approach it this way, it seems to just create a bulletproof personality, a bulletproof self-image. Look, at the end of the day, right? We're all human. We're going to create our own opinion, no matter what. We're human. As long as your intention is pure and you keep it real, make sure they're accurate. That's all. Your only job is to make sure they're accurate, right? Just keep it real. Be you, and then just let it go. And that's, I think, again, like we're talking about, we both know that that's the biggest stopper. You'd be surprised how many people are afraid to do what you're doing right now in that seat. Actually, you're probably not surprised because this is what you do.
Well, not only that, but it's interesting what you're just saying, because I want to now peel that onion a little bit. Because there's a little bit of hypocrisy as we're doing this, because we got to understand this. Our intentions and our meanings also change. People always look for the secret of happiness. Well, it's a moving target. It's the definition of what you give it. So if you wake up and say, hey, I want breakfast that'll make me happy, well, that's your definition. The same thing. Well, the same thing with intention. For me, it's like intentions change. So it's the definition, again, of what you...
But as long as it's pure.
As long as it's pure.
That's all.
At
that's
that
all
moment,
I'm saying.
But understand what I'm saying. Look, there's no such thing as fact. There's no such thing as real. Fact just means that the general population believes it to be true. For example, when we were kids, it was a fact Pluto was a planet. It was a fact that the world was flat at one time. It was a fact you can catch AIDS from a toilet seat. It doesn't mean it's true. It just means that the general population just believes it to be true.
At that time.
At that time. So it's the same thing with intention. So it's also being very careful and pure in our thoughts, but also having the information. Here's what I mean. There's a big difference between a word he used earlier. It's called opinion, and counsel. Now, the founder of string theory gave me this greatest bit of information I ever got. If you guys are going to watch this and get one takeaway, this is it. You don't have to wait till the end or anything like this. Successful people seek counsel and failures listen to opinion. Now, here's the difference. Opinion is based on ignorance, lack of knowledge, inexperience, like all your family, friends who've never done what you want to do. Where counsel is based on wisdom, knowledge, mentorship, people have paved the way. If you want to write a book and go to a family friend and tell me you're going to do it, they might talk you out of it because they don't know. They've never done it. But if you go to Mark Victor Hansen, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, and say, I want to write a book, he'll say, before you get started, here's what you need to know and give you counsel based on wisdom, knowledge, mentorship. John Schwartz said our lives would change the moment that we started seeking counsel and ignoring people's opinion. And it's very important to know the difference between those two.
100%. I think you're 100% on, and that's why I was excited about this show, because you're bringing real world wisdom. And I believe wisdom.
And none of it I brought up, by the way. I got a great job. I got a D in English, by the way, folks. I'm just a regular cat. But the thing is, I have an opportunity to travel the world to meet these amazing, influential people and tell their stories and share it with you. So when we're sharing, it's not necessarily coming from us. It's coming from the experiences that we've learned along life's journey, right?
And this is a statement I say all the time, even on stage. If there's a personal development, self-help person out there saying they created something new, run, don't look back. This goes back to antiquity. We're just students sharing what we were taught.
Exactly.
And if anybody tells you different, run.
Yeah,
Don't look back.
Many years ago, I did a project called Pass It On. It's a movie project. You can go to YouTube, look it up. It's free on there. And it was really interesting because I realized so many people that gain wisdom and knowledge, they just want to share it. They want to pass it along to that next generation. And what's common sense to you is not common sense to someone else. That's the thing that I find interesting. A lot of people are afraid to sit in this chair, but they've got some type of wisdom that they think is nothing.
Amazing.
Other people are waiting for it. You can learn to play a video game and know every little trick because you're a master at it and think that you have no skills or talent, yet someone out there is willing to pay you a lot of money to learn those secret things so that they can master that, no matter what it is.
It's so, I'm glad you went there too, because again, as you know, I just wrote my first book a few weeks ago.
Turned out great, by the way.
Thank you. And the last chapter is all of the testimonials on Monster Motivator TV. Here's what's so cool. Why it becomes my oxygen is the people that are so afraid and saying my story doesn't mean anything. When they see the comments, when they see the questions, at the end I'll say, how was it? They say, oh my God, I feel so good. Because what they do? They duck dived. They met that fear head on, and it almost becomes therapy for them, for the people that are so concerned. Right? My story doesn't mean anything. And then no one wants to hear me, and they don't know. Really? Exactly what you said.
Everyone's got a story to tell. And do me a favor and run out and buy Dave's book. Hopefully you can get some sales and afford some sleeves one day. So
they keep falling off.
It's just part of the process. You know, it's progress, not perfection. Let's not judge the cat, but it is what it is.
Well, I got to tell you, since I was 12 years old, my mom said she'll never buy me another shirt because the sleeves never seem to stay on. So I was always, I don't know what happened. I'm allergic to it.
When are you going to start working out? You're letting yourself go, man.
I'm going on to nothing. I gotta get some protein.
So here's the scope. Does anyone have any questions for us?
Well, we got some people jump on. Marion, want to give us some names who jumped on?
Yeah, Wade, my good.
Wade, good man. This is a great guy for you to connect with. He shares a lot of great stuff, and you guys will be huge synergy right there. Wade's a good guy. Thank you, Wade, for jumping on. Anybody else?
But he said in the beginning with your technical problems, laugh out loud, hi Dave and Greg.
That's it. We're keeping it real raw and live here, always.
And Rocky's Choice says hi.
Hey, Rocky's Choice, thanks so much for, we're going to see you tomorrow night at the book signing up in Marietta. Thank you so much for all your support. Who else do we have, Marion?
Todd Lewis, give a shout out.
We'll have it right there. That's my piece.
There you go.
They're all coming together.
Love.
That's it.
Okay, and Alan Duke.
Oh, Alan. Alan's my man. Alan, Big A. I feel the love. Thank you so much for all your support and everything you do. And I know how much you use and implement personal development in your life on a daily basis, and I want to talk to you about that too, this is the guy you want to talk to. This is the guy, and he's a local guy as well.
Done. Make it happen.
You know,
so I got a story to tell first.
Yeah.
So I just, you know, I wanted to share this little thing. You know, one of the cool interviews I did was a guy named Steve Wozniak, who founded Apple Computers, right? You're using the iPad right now, that's why it just popped in my head. And it was interesting, I sat him down and I said, how did you and Steve have so much success in your life? And it was really interesting. He says, we embraced our lack. We embraced what we did not have. Where most entrepreneurs, people getting started, they look at all the things they're missing, they're lacking, and they run away from it. And he says, we embraced it. We went head on. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, when microchips came out, they were so expensive, he goes, we could only afford one chip. He goes, Jobs sold his Volkswagen, and I sold my calculator. We pulled our money to buy one of these microprocessor chips. He goes, now Hewlett-Packard was rich. They could go from point A to point B in their machines using 20 chips. He goes, so I had to pull away 5 and configure it to work, and pull away another 5 and get it to work. Till finally, I could go from point A to point B using our one chip. He goes, we weren't trying to be innovative or cool or slick. He goes, we could only afford one chip. He goes, but by embracing that as an opportunity, I found the shortest, cleanest path of least resistance and changed the way people do personal computing for the rest of the world for the rest of their lives. He says, where could you be right now watching this if you stop looking at something as your greatest challenge or your obstacle, but it might just be the greatest blessing and opportunity in disguise?
Love it. I love it. And it's real. And talk about changing the world.
Yeah.
I mean,
and do me a favor, kid. Go give me a palm drink out of that fridge, would you?
You know, I want to talk. I want to get the feedback on this. You know, a lot of people. You talk of personal development. I always tie it into like physical development, right? You can't go to the gym once a week, once a month, expect to get results. You can't eat clean once a week, once a month, and expect to get results. And I believe it's the same thing with personal development. It really should become a lifestyle change if you want that the real results. That one chapter in a book, right, isn't going to change everything. That seminar might get you juiced, right? But at the end of the day, I believe it's a lifestyle change. I'd love to hear your take on that.
Well, obviously, no one's going to argue that.
Right.
I mean, it's
Well,
kind of like
I'd like
setting
to
it up
see
on
you go deeper.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, personal development is just, I think, a catchphrase because people do it, they just don't call it that. So, for example, if you go to yoga or you do some other thing, that's still personal development. You might not call it, that, but it's still to you.
Gotcha.
And in AA, which I'm 29 years sober guy, they have a great term that says progress, not perfection. And to me, that's what personal development's about. So many people want, to be ideal, perfect, but that's not what it is. It's progress, not perfection. As long as you're working every day towards progression, therefore, I think that you are successful.
I love it. I love it. Marion, anybody else we want to talk to? Acknowledge?
Yeah, there's Alexis Vargas.
Okay.
And Eunice Costas Flores.
All right. Girls, thank you for jumping on.
Anthony Steele.
Oh, that's my man, Big A. That's a guy. I'll connect you guys. Great guy. He's making some major things happen up in the North County area. Great guy. Big A, thank you, pal.
And one more, Corey Lynchman.
Corey, thank you for taking the time. This is real value here today. You guys want to get your notepads out, man, because this is real wisdom.
Corey's an awesome cat, by the way. Definitely get to know that guy. So it's really interesting. So when you're looking at all these different stories and whatnot, you realize that one of my buddies, a 4-time gold Olympic athlete, and he says that you can have anything you want as long as you have the courage to succeed. And that means the courage to get started, and once you get started, the courage to not quit. He says first there's a dream, then there's challenge, and then there's victory. Unfortunately, almost everyone quits in the challenge because as soon as it gets hard. But it's the people that have what I call stickability, which is one of the books I wrote, those are the people that come out on top. Most people, again, they want the prize on top of the mountain, but they're not willing to climb to get there.
I love it. And I always say, I don't make the rules, you don't make the rules, life makes the rules. Life says you got to earn it. And if you don't earn it, you're not going to get it. Or if you do get it by chance, you're not going to keep it, right? Like the lottery winners.
Yeah, and I'm also finding out, again, this weird contradiction of this one, is that the greatest deals I ever had are the ones that were the easiest. So I keep wondering.
If you're in the flow.
Yeah. I'm just going back to the most greatest relationships, the greatest deals, the two that I've got going in motion that are the most potential for success are the easiest deals I've ever had.
But But let's not get it twisted. At the end of the day, it might have been in the flow, might have been easy, but you did the action to earn that.
Correct.
And that's, so I don't want people to get it twisted here's what my show is definitely not about, and I know you're not about this either. It's not the pink clouds, the unicorns, and the Easter bunny. This is real stuff. And here's what happens. I'm going to take this even a little deeper. What Greg's talking about is what I talk about all the time. Action. See, effective, massive action becomes magical. There's things that happen in your life that the greatest Hollywood screenwriters couldn't write, right? And when you look back on those effortless times, you took that action, right? But it became, you were in alignment, and it became effortless. And I think also, speaking for me, myself, I'm believe it or not, I'm a type A guy, right? I'm a little bit out of my shell. So it's hard the hardest struggle for me is to step back at times and say, you know what, let it flow, because I just want to grab it, you know, and shake it. So I'm glad you went there.
Well, it is definitely the action behind the attraction that makes our dream come true. You got to think it, feel it, got to get up your ass, and you got to take action. There's not even a question about that. But what I am saying is that I realize that the greatest things that have happened for me are lately have been the ease and grace. And I'm realizing that, you know, there's an old quote that says, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, right? Because the whole thing is, as much as we control stuff, the things that happen are out of our control. But what I'm also realizing, that my point is that there's effortless things are coming because of the 15 years of constant action of laying the track and building those relationships that open the door. So it's kind of interesting. It's like, what comes first? Well, for me, it's the actions, it's the relationships, and then from there, the ease and grace seems to follow. Because their quote says, if you do more than you get paid for, eventually get paid for more than you do. And that's what comes down. Napoleon Hill even has it in Think and Grow Rich. It says, you know, when this wealth and prosperity starts flowing, you're going to wonder where it was hiding through all the lean years. I mean, that's one of the primary things. And it keeps coming down to that thing. But if we're willing to take action, the luckier and luckier we'll get.
Oh, man, amen. Amen. I love that. And maybe you could share, you know, from your wisdom. I know there's people out there probably asking, you know what, that's great, but how do you get in that zen? How do you create that more often than not?
Surround yourself with the right people. Okay. So many times, you and I were talking about this before camera, right? Look, we are a reflection of the people we hang around the most. Our income, attitude, and lifestyle is the average of the group. The bottom line, if you hang around winners and champions, that's the dialogue you have. If you hang around smokers, chances are you're a smoker. If you hang around jocks, you're a jock. Well, if you hang around people that complain, gripe, and moan, that's our dialogue. But if we hang around people that are positive and solution searching all the time, then that too becomes the conversation. And I believe it comes down to is this. You know, they talk about the law of attraction. What you think about naturally comes to be. What you want comes to you. And I think that's total, utter bullshit. What it comes down to, the law of attraction works like this. You don't attract what you want. You attract more of who you already are. That's it. So the more that people like drama in their life, they attract more drama. More people that get fights, they get more fights. The people that look for love or wealth or whatever. Have you ever noticed certain people just get influenced? Because you're resonating at that thing. In the airwaves right now, there's country music, rap music, and classical. But if you took a receiver and dialed it into an exact frequency, you could pull it from the ethers and enjoy that sound. That's the same thing. All around us is prosperity, that deal, relationships, wellness, health. Everything's around us, but certain people call tap the source. And here's how you do it. It's the questions in which we ask. Unfortunately, most people say, you know, when's this all going to go to hell in a handbag? And the universe says, well, on Tuesday. It's exactly that answer.
3 p.m., right?
Exactly, because you're asking, it's very specific. But if we also say, you know, what's the opportunity and this challenge that I'm not seeing? Then that'll magically start appearing. When we start asking, how can it get better than this? That answer starts appearing. When we start saying, what's around me that I'm not paying attention to or tuning into, that starts appearing. When the student's ready, the teacher appears. It's always around you, but until you decide to look for it, you don't see it. It's called RAS, Reticular Activator System. So the whole thing is, what are we looking for? You know, my 4-year-old kid, when we get in the car, I sit there and say, hey, what are we going to look for today? Because I'm looking for a police car and a motorcycle and a dump truck. And I say, okay, I'm going to look for this. And what do you think we see on the freeway when we're driving around? Because that's what we're looking for. The big question is, what are you looking for? Imagine if every day you woke up and said, hey, today I'm going to look for an opportunity. Hey, today I'm going to look for that relationship. Hey, today I'm going to look for... All of a sudden, those things will start magically appearing.
It's pretty amazing, pretty amazing. So I know you have over 50-something books. kind of give us a little, what are some of your favorites?
Well, I've been publishing those books. Let me have some clarity on this one.
Okay.
So what I'm always saying is I get published in these books. I mean, sometimes I write a foreword, sometimes I'm interviewed for it, sometimes I'm a co-author, sometimes I'm, I write them myself. So it's like my words have been printed in all these different books. And the key to success is to work your strengths and hire your weaknesses. I cannot write. I'm going to tell you flat out. There's a difference between an author and a writer. An author is the person whose name goes on the book. A writer is the person who wrote the book. Same thing, Katy Perry might not have wrote the song Firework, but she's the author of that thing. Well, same thing in my world. So what happens is they're my messages, but I hire ghostwriters and copy editors, the very best in the world, and they take my words and bring them to magic. So what I do is, like in the first book of The Millionaire Mentor, I say, okay, a boy wakes up, gets off his ass, walks his dog, and takes action. And they take it and say, it was a glorious Sunday afternoon when a young, bright-eyed lad woke up to meet the new day as he took his best friend's spot. That's what they do. So I understand to work my strengths and hire weaknesses. So the whole thing is my favorite books are the ones that I get to sit down and interview these amazing people, and then they share their message. Because I never ask them how they're rich or cool or successful. I ask them why they didn't quit. How did they handle the adversity? How did they handle stuff that we can all relate to? And some of those messages are mind-boggling. Did I ever tell you the one about Marty Cooper? Mm-hmm. Marty Cooper is the guy who invented this, the cell phone. And I remember seeing him on 60 Minutes, and I wanted a meeting with him. The next day I said, Marty, I'm working on a book called Stickability. Empowered to Not Quit. I go, what does stickability mean to you? And he said, stickability has to be parallel with flexibility. He says, if you're not willing to adapt, you get stuck. And he told a story about a spider monkey. He said in the rainforest, the spider monkey is the most quick, nimble creature. He can't harpoon it, spear it, catch it. It's too wiry. One hunter figured it out. He took a heavy log, drilled a tiny hole in, and left it at the base of the jungle. He dropped the peanut and walked away. The monkey would smell the nut, come down, reach his hand in, grab a hold of the net, and his fist becomes so big he can't pull it back out and become anchored to the log. All he's got to do is let go, but he thinks that nut is nutrition, it's saving him. Hunter comes by an hour later and captures the elusive spider monkey. The moral is, are you holding on to your own nut in life? But it could be out of that job or that deal or house or a car, and what we think is saving us, just like that monkey thought the nut was, could be the single thing that's leading to our own demise. Sometimes we have to have the courage and the fortitude to simply let go so we can live to fight another day.
I love it, and I believe that ties in too, is having the courage and the wherewithal to start to listen to your inner GPS, that intuition that tells you, right, you know what, this isn't the right direction, but all the outside noise is telling you it is. And every time you didn't listen to that intuition, what happened, right?
Yeah. Well, I call those if, when, then deals, by the way. Here's another little tidbit. I mean, this changed my life in business. The worst deal you can do in life is called if, when, then. That means if this happens and when this comes together, then this is the outcome. Those fail. If you go back and look at all the deals that are your biggest struggles, and you're bet on the come line and that winning horse, it's an if, when, then deal. But it's the ones that just flow with ease and grace, those are the ones that come out on top. So I'm very careful to avoid the if, when, thens to everything I can.
I love that. And instead of forcing, right, you're going with nature.
That's right.
And you just roll with it. Anything, Marion, does anybody else jump on?
Yeah, we have a few.
Okay.
Victoria Gilbert, and she made the comment, very informative, thank you, two look great, sounds great.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you for jumping on. And when we jump off, as you guys know, we're going to share this, and then Greg will have an opportunity to connect with you guys. And if you have any questions, he can connect with you via Facebook. Anybody else, Marion?
Chris Ripka is watching.
Chris, I'm going to be doing his podcast in about 2 weeks. Chris, thanks so much for your support. I know we connected through Brian K. Wright. So he had an awesome show last week in Arizona.
Yeah, Brian's a cool cat too, right there. He came out and did a lot of the interviews for my red carpet walk when I did my movie premiere of Stickability.
Really?
Cool.
Great guy, man. We had an awesome show. He brought so much value. It was we were killing it. Anybody else, Marion?
Danny Levine says, nice to see you, both of you by surprise here. Well done, guys. Great show.
There you go. And that right there is the Mosaic Man himself.
It is.
What a genius.
It is. We did a show with him. He brought the heat. Danny brought his flavor. Anybody else?
Well, I've got that jumped on Victoria Gilbert, Anna Levine, Marion Chow,
Okay.
our you,
There you go.
All right, we don't need to
There
do
you
a
go.
roll call. Got it. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, everybody's jumped on.
All right.
Okay.
Well, you know, Greg's making me feel real popular, man. I'm going to have to hang out with you a little more. So, is there anything else that you want to talk about that I didn't talk about?
You know, I think when it comes down to life and success, we can have anything we want as
Okay.
long as we have that flexibility and we look for and capitalize on unexpected opportunities.
Okay.
And the founder of Truett Cathy of Chick-fil-A restaurants
Okay.
gave me the greatest thing before he passed away. I had a meeting with him and I said, look, you're worth billions of dollars. I want to be worth billions of dollars. What do I do differently? He looked at me and said, stop planning. I go, that goes against everything we've ever learned, right? And he says, well, last year you had a lot of plans. I go, yeah. He goes, how did that work out? And he goes, 5 years ago you had a master plan. He goes, I guarantee it didn't go as you thought. He goes, you'll hit a goal from time to time because you're type A and you're willing to take action, but how it came to be, I guarantee didn't go as fruition. He goes, look for and capitalize on unexpected opportunity. So what do you mean? So, well, then let's say I have that stickability factor and I want to get to the end of the street. That's my goal. Nothing's going to stop me from there. He goes, I have to get off my backside and yes, I got to take action. I just got to start moving towards my goal. He goes, but a planner is going to plan every step. We're going to pause, take a break. He goes, I'm looking for opportunity. Did a kid leave a skateboard or a bicycle out to make my journey short? He goes, if I get lucky, I'll wave down a neighbor driving by and I'll hitch a ride to the end of the street. He goes, either way, I'll get to my goal, my destination. I'm just not so caught up. I don't mind how it has to happen.
I love it. I love it. You have to be flexible. If you're not flexible, you're going to
Flexibility is
break. You're going to break, like Bruce Lee said. You got to be water, right? As Bruce Lee said. So, guys, thank you so much for jumping on. You can reconnect with Greg, and as we always end, you know, Greg, I'm sure you believe this as well. I believe you can only be in one state of mind at a time. So, if you're in gratitude state, you can't be in victim state. So, one of the things we do when we end, it's called the Monster Motivator Roar. Now, the sound is just as important
Let's hear it.
as the pose.
Yeah.
And on 3, we're going to do it together because it puts you in that
It's like a
unstoppable
lion
state.
roar?
Yeah, because here's what I believe, or here's what I live my life. You can live your life purring like a kitten or roaring like a lion. I want to roar like a lion. I know you do too. So on 3, we're going to do the Monster Motivator Roar, and then we are going to share this video. On 3, it's going to go like this. Ah! Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ah! Thank you, guys. We will see you next week.
Bye, everybody. Keep smiling.
Good job, brother.